There are admissions that destroy reputations. There are realities the public would rather ignore. And there are secrets influential men carry with them to the grave. In 2013, one of the most recognizable figures in Hollywood broke all three of those rules in a single moment. After enduring 3 brutal years, after offering carefully polished explanations to reporters across the globe, he did something almost unheard of in the entertainment industry. He told the full, uncomfortable, career-risking truth about what had nearly taken his life. It wasn't cigarettes. It wasn't drinking. It wasn't inherited fate. It was something that happens in private in millions of bedrooms worldwide, something rarely spoken about in public conversation, something intimate, something stigmatized, something even physicians often hesitate to discuss directly with patients. And this icon of Hollywood masculinity stood before cameras and connected his life-threatening cancer to decades of his own sexual behavior. This particular cancer is caused by HPV, which actually comes about from cunnilingus. The media detonated instantly. Headlines multiplied. His representatives scrambled to soften the impact. But he did not fully retreat. Because for the first time in more than 60 years of navigating fame, he wasn't protecting an image. He was trying to protect strangers by exposing himself. But how does a man born into cinematic royalty, blessed with wealth, opportunity, and generational fame, end up making a confession that dismantles the myth of his own invulnerability? How does someone who lived as if consequences were negotiable finally confront the one authority that does not negotiate, biology? And when he realized his own body had quietly recorded every excess, every indulgence, every assumption that he would somehow be spared, he made a decision that altered not only his life, but a public conversation. To understand that moment, you have to return to the beginning. Not to glamour, not to red carpets, but to absence. To a childhood shaped more by shadow than affection. Michael Douglas was born on September 25, 1944, in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Even his name carried expectation. Michael Kirk Douglas. Kirk, after his father, a man whose presence dominated Hollywood and whose emotional distance defined his son's inner life. Kirk Douglas was not merely famous. He was formidable, intense, tireless. He filled every space he entered and left a vacuum behind when he departed. He worked relentlessly. When he was home, the energy that fueled his performances did not disappear. There was no gentle off switch. Michael's mother, Diana Dill, was everything Kirk was not: graceful, steady, protective. But the marriage fractured under infidelity and absence. When it ended, Michael was 8, old enough to feel it, too young to process it. "I got into acting late," Michael would say years later. "It was probably a rejection of my father." That sentence explains almost everything. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing acknowledgement. Kirk never fully disappeared. He remained close enough to cast a long shadow, close enough to set impossible standards, distant enough that Michael never learned how to meet them. Michael attended elite schools. He studied drama at the University of California, Santa Barbara, not out of passion, but because acting was the only language that might make his father see him. He understood something crucial early on. He could not compete with Kirk as an actor in the same way. So he pivoted. In 1975, he secured the film rights to Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Kirk had once performed the story on stage and wanted the starring role. Michael made a ruthless decision. He cast Jack Nicholson instead. The film swept the 1976 Academy Awards, winning the top 5 categories. And at 31, Michael stood on stage holding the Best Picture Oscar, not as someone's son, but as a producer in his own right. He thanked his father publicly. Privately, it was independence. But success does not repair childhood wounds. It distracts from them. In 1977, Michael met Deandra Luker. She was 19. He was 32. They married 6 weeks later. In 1978, their son Cameron was born. Michael promised himself he would be different, that he would be present. Intentions, however, are not behavior. By the mid-1980s, his acting career surged. Romancing the Stone established him as a leading man. Wall Street made him an icon. Gordon Gekko's declaration that greed was good became cultural shorthand for excess. And excess defined those years. Money, power, drugs, affairs, parties that blurred into mornings. He entered rehab in 1992 for alcohol addiction. Tabloids speculated about sex addiction. He denied the label but not the lifestyle. Cameron watched all of it. By 2009, Cameron Douglas was arrested for distributing methamphetamine and cocaine. During sentencing, Michael admitted publicly, "I'm not an angel. I'm a bad father." It was a rare, unscripted truth. Cameron received nearly a decade in federal prison. Michael was forced to confront a painful possibility. His example had consequences. Meanwhile, in 1999, he met Catherine Zeta-Jones at the Deauville Film Festival. She was 29. He was 54. They married in 2000. Their son Dylan and daughter Karis followed. For a time, it appeared he had stabilized. Then, in early 2010, a persistent sore throat refused to fade. Tests revealed stage 4 oropharyngeal squamous cell carcinoma at the base of his tongue. Stage 4. Advanced. Aggressive. He underwent 8 weeks of simultaneous chemotherapy and radiation. He lost 45 pounds. He could not swallow. He was fed through a tube. The radiation burned the interior of his mouth and throat. Catherine stood beside him throughout. In January 2011, doctors declared him cancer-free. But survival exposed deeper truths. Catherine, who lives with bipolar II disorder, suffered a severe episode shortly afterward and sought inpatient treatment. The strain fractured the marriage. In 2013, they separated temporarily. During that separation, Michael did something unfamiliar. He reflected. And in June 2013, in an interview with The Guardian, he answered a question about the cause of his cancer with startling candor. He linked it to HPV, the human papillomavirus transmitted sexually. The statement ignited controversy. Publicists attempted clarification, but the essential point remained medically accurate. HPV-16 is a leading cause of oropharyngeal cancers in men. Later, he clarified that his cancer was at the base of the tongue. He wanted specificity because younger men were increasingly being diagnosed with similar cancers. "If my speaking about this prevents one person from getting this disease, it's worth it," he said. Vaccination rates rose. Searches for HPV information surged. Physicians reported patients finally asking questions without embarrassment. The confession was not polished. It was costly. It was honest. Michael and Catherine reconciled in 2014. The relationship became quieter, steadier, less spectacle, more accountability. Cameron was released from prison in 2016. Michael was there, not with cameras, just as a father. By 2017, Cameron was sober and speaking publicly about addiction and consequence. Michael listened as his son described growing up believing wealth shielded you from accountability. He did not interrupt. Catherine became an advocate for mental health transparency. She spoke openly about bipolar disorder, refusing to hide it. By 2020, HPV vaccination,